This podcast is part of the Midwest Podcast Network. Find out more about our other shows and how to support our network at MidwestPodcastNetwork.com. Welcome to Gone to Texas, a podcast about AMC's Preacher. My name is Alex, and I have not read any of Ennis and Dillon's Preacher.
My name is Nick, and I've done all the required reading necessary to co-host this podcast.
Yes. Today we will be discussing Season 3, Episode 2 of the AMC series, titled Sonsabitches. While we will not be spoiling any of the comic, and by extension any future plot lines of the show, we will be discussing the details of the series through Season 3, Episode 2, so pause this and go catch up before you listen to the rest of our episode.
Yep.
You can find more episodes of our podcast at g2tpodcast.com. That's the letter G, number 2, letter T, podcast.com. We're also G2T Podcast on Twitter. And you can send your feedback to g2tpodcast@gmail.com to tell us what you think of our podcast and share your thoughts on AMC's Preacher so we can read them on our show. Send us corrections, observations, or anything regarding Preacher or our podcast. If you enjoyed this show or any other show on the Midwest Podcast Network, please consider heading over to patreon.com/MidwestPodnet. That's MidwestPodnet, and pledge as little as $1 a month to make our network even better. Special thanks to Jason K., who's pledged at the level of $10 a month. Still the only person to have done so.
Woo woo.
He's a VIP, a VVIP.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you, Jason. Last week, we put the call out there. We wanted to hear what people's purgatory songs or purgatory items, whatever would get you out of purgatory. I did call out Sue by name, so she did write back. She said, "Hi, guys. Well, weren't you hysterical with your getting out of purgatory lists? Thanks for thinking of me on your podcast, and you did get me thinking. Mine are not very interesting, so don't feel obligated to read them. I just wanted you to know there are people out there listening to you. Here goes." Thank you very much for that, by the way.
Yes, thanks, sir.
And we are going to read it on the air.
Afraid so.
Number 1, Still the One by Orleans. It's the ringtone I have for my husband, so I'd probably want to answer.
That's fantastic.
Loves Me Like a Rock by Paul Simon, the song my son picked for our mother-son dance at his wedding. Very good.
Very good.
The song my other son wrote just for me to listen to while I trained for my first Chicago Marathon. It's called 37742, my running number. It would keep me motivated to hang on. And then number 4, theme song from The X-Files, my all-time favorite TV show. I have all original seasons copied to VHS tapes. Back then, if you missed a show, you were shit out of luck. She used the symbols, but I filled in my own filth. Yes. She said they are stashed away with my Do You Believe Mulder poster. Oops, gotta go. Preacher's coming on. Keep the laughs and insights coming. That's a great list, Sue.
That's great. The 37742 thing that's the coolest thing I've ever heard.
That's very awesome.
In my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Play it for me, because that will get me out of purgatory, too. I'll say, oh, that's so cool. What a cool thing to do.
That is a very awesome idea.
Yeah.
I've never thought of writing my mom a song because I've never really been a songwriter. I know you've done more songwriting in the past than I have.
Secrets.
Yes.
Secret songs.
Yes. But
yeah, those answers are all really, really nice because they are personal, but they're like outwardly personal.
Yes.
They make me feel like all of my answers were very selfish. Considering I just got married too. I'm like, why was there nothing regarding my wedding day? Probably because it's so fresh. I'm making up my excuse right now. It's not yet like a fond nostalgic memory for me yet. It's like recent past. So yeah, there it is. Sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it just kind of depends. I think there are different items you could put in there for different reasons.
Oh yeah, sure.
So
it was a question that I continued to think about throughout the week. Like as I was at home, I was like seeing things and thinking of more songs. I really regret I was actually going to come up with my 5 songs and I didn't do it. Yeah. I was thinking about it throughout the week. You know what? I can't say throughout the week because we only recorded like 2 days ago. Yeah. So I have more time. Yes, you do. I'll be back next week with it.
Okay, good. We did get some people in the Discord as well before we loop back to an email. But, yeah, Jason wrote in. He said, my holographic Charizard Pokemon card or my brick-sized Game Boy, one of those would bring me out of purgatory. And then he said maybe just that funny smell of that Pokemon cards had.
Yeah, like I don't know if it was a smell unique to those, but like trading cards and like comics have there's definitely a smell to those.
Yeah.
That can totally... I mean, any scent that like you really held near and dear, like it will immediately rip you right back. Like sometimes smells are the most potent like reminders of memories.
Yeah.
I feel like the smell of like a good like book collection or something would totally bring you back.
Yeah. No, I get that. I always, there were a few people at school that I know would always like smell the books that we would get when they were handed out, because there was always a particular smell that like
totally.
a book that has survived 60 years has in it.
Mm-hmm.
Old book smell.
Probably not good for you to just inhale.
I mean, yeah, probably not.
But still,
Probably
worth
still,
it
just
for
like
the feels.
Small flecks of lead from the paint in the 60s that made it in there.
exactly.
Joseph wrote, he had a very personal one. I don't know that I'll go into complete detail on that story, but there was a certain type of candy that his dad would get, and he hasn't found it anywhere.
That is so intriguing to me.
I'm dying to know what it is.
Me too. Yeah, I want him to like describe it and like let us help him find it.
Yes.
and ship him.
Absolutely.
Some of it.
We'll crowdsource the power of the Midwest Podcast Network to identify,
which is more
the
considerable than that sounds.
Yeah, no.
It's probably like Skittles or something, and he just doesn't eat candy.
I've never gone outside.
I actually remember that until like Necco wafers like recently came back into the news because they were going to stop making them.
Yeah.
I used to get those. My parents used to buy me and my brother those when we were kids from like the little market that was right by our house, and that was the only place that had them. And we stopped going there forever ago. And when they came back into the news a while back, because they were going to stop making them, everybody was all of a sudden everyone gave a shit, which was really weird.
On Necco
but
wafers.
yeah, exactly. But I saw the package of chocolate Necco wafers, because there's the chocolate and there's like the multicolored whatever, like rainbow ones. And the chocolate were the ones I liked. I saw those. I was like, oh my God, I would love to have a pack of those right now. But I don't know that I would still like them.
That was what Tulip wanted from her dad.
Yeah.
My dad always used to bring me those wax bottles.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. You get that sugary stuff, like the 2 milliliters of sugary crap.
It's almost
in them,
nothing.
And then you just chew on that wax for 7 hours.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I would
I would chew on the wax forever.
I would immediately throw it in the garbage.
I would chew on the wax so much that I probably ingested too much of it as a child.
That's crazy.
Is my guess. Because it was just something to chew on. It was like chewing gum with even less flavor in it than there normally is.
I was never into like chewing candy. I don't like fruit candies generally. I'm a chocolate. It's disgusting how much chocolate I can eat. And if you know me and you know what I look like, it doesn't make any sense how much chocolate I can eat. And I will just not really like chewing candies that much. Like I'll kind of avoid it, or like I'll chew it for a second to get the flavor, and then be like, okay, that's enough. Except, do you remember Big League Chew?
Oh yeah.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah.
The whole pack.
Yeah. You can't just have a little bit of Big League Chew.
It's an amazing thing that it ever existed, because I'm like, you want us to imitate Shaw.
Tobacco.
Yeah, exactly. You want us to think baseball players are cool, and candy cigarettes too, same thing. And those were both huge when I was a kid, and we'd be sitting there with a candy cig in your mouth and then like follow it up as a Big League Chew, and I was like, what are we doing?
It's just those companies, the children aimed section of Camel was like, let's put something out there to...
Some genius
Incredible.
For sure came up with that.
Joseph did go on to say, he said, if my wife had to pick, probably generic anime, marzipan, bourbon, and a random song from Best of the Smiths, which I would have to admit would work pretty well.
What kind of bourbon? Write in later. Let us know.
Yeah,
what are your preferred bourbons?
Yes. Marzipan is... Have you had marzipan?
Mm-hmm.
Marzipan is certainly an acquired taste.
Yeah.
But it is a bit of a...
It's like real saltwater taffy. Like it reminds me of that, like in terms of how distinct the taste is.
Yeah.
And like circus peanuts, which...
Yeah, no.
Pass.
No. I'll do some marzipan. I will not do some circus peanuts.
No. It's those are weird exotic candies.
Yeah. You wrote in on the Discord. He said, for me, it would be The Fellowship of the Ring on Blu-ray. It was the movie I watched when I was home alone for the first time, and that is why it's one of my favorite movies of all time. That's an interesting... I have no idea what movie I first watched when I was home alone for the first time, but I think that's an interesting memory to have. Like that connection to something, I think, is an interesting, unique one that I haven't heard.
Yeah, I don't know what mine would be either. I remember I remember being a senior in high school and rented, like the first R-rated movie I went and rented by myself with my girlfriend at the time. It was Secret Window. I remember that so distinctly because we went to the video store. It was I think it was a Hollywood Video. And I think I was 17. Was I 18 yet? I might have been 17 still. They had the huge entire chunk of the wall that was just secret window, and the cover, it just for some reason to me is funny because it's just
Depp's face.
It's just this close up of Depp's face, and I've always had this
just like on the edge of a window, right?
Yes,
yeah,
a secret window, if you will. And movie cover art has always made me giggle if it's like someone's face really dramatic, because I always picture them in a like a photography studio and then be like, all right, get real, this is for the front of the DVD. And as if like that's going to be the one. It just always cracks me up. So I remember seeing this huge wall of secret window and just like laughing at 80 pictures of Johnny Depp identity. It just like the absurdity of it always stuck with me. I also remember being a kid and my mom was in the kitchen doing dishes, which was right around the corner in the house I grew up in from the living room. And Predator was on TV. And I was not supposed to be watching Predator.
Turn it down.
But I had the remote, and when she would like cross by, like there was a little gap there.
Yeah.
When I would like flip the channel to like something else and then go back to Predator. And I remember seeing Carl Weathers' arm get blown off and just being like, "Oh my god, what is this?" And it was just so violent and so tense. And like that movie was scary to me when I was a kid. And I watch it now and I'm like, this isn't a scary movie at all. It's just awesome.
Nicole and I were trying to remember what our first PG-13 and R-rated movies were, but I couldn't. I don't know for sure. I know that my first movie that I saw in theaters was Last Action Hero.
Wow.
It's a PG-13 film.
Yeah.
And it came out when I was 3. So I don't know. And it was up north, so it could have been like a later run of it at the time. I don't really know for sure. But I'm also pretty sure that the first rated R movie that I would have seen was probably Ace Ventura. And it was like 94.
Did your dad take you to those?
I think both of my parents
took
me.
Okay. That's a dad
No,
move.
it wasn't. Yeah, my parents were pretty open with movies, and like it'd be like, oh, we're gonna talk about it afterwards. And to be honest, I probably didn't even realize what was going on in Ace Ventura until like a year ago. So
yeah,
it's
yeah, the opening scene with the woman when she rewards him for exactly.
Yes.
You're like, wait a minute.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, my dad, when my parents split and we would go to my dad's for the weekend, it was more like he just wanted to have fun with us, obviously. Yeah. So it was, we would get to do a little bit more like go rent movies and pick them out, and he would often let us just kind of pick, and he'd be like, some karate movies or like more action movies, and he'd be like, yeah, all right. And he would like buy like the more edgy video games for us and that kind of thing. But it was usually followed with a conversation.
Yep.
So I remember when I was like, oh man, I was probably like 11 or 12, and we were watching Caddyshack. And there's a scene where Chevy Chase is laying in bed with the topless woman, and like we were talking, or like they were talking, and my dad just turns to me, he's like, "Don't tell your mom." I was like, "All right."
Agreed.
That was a
yeah.
We have an accord.
A gentleman's accord.
Yeah, that stands out to me too. But I don't love Caddyshack that much, so that wouldn't be on my purgatory list.
Yeah, that's fair.
That memory is good.
Yoop did also go on to say, for food, a nice big burger and a nice craft beer. For music, it would be Dear Marie by John Mayer, because it would remind me of the time me and my wife went to his concert and 10,000 sang the chorus along.
That is awesome.
And a picture of my wife and dog. If that doesn't bring me back, then I don't know what will. Feel free to share this on the podcast. Thank you, Yoop.
That's a good answer, too, about the concert. That makes me think of when you and I and my wife, then girlfriend, went to see Twin Shadow together, the three of us. That night was awesome. That
was a good night.
Stands out in my memory.
It was a very good night. Yeah, just put DJ George on the coffee table.
Yes.
See if he can call you back.
That'd be awesome. Yoop, dude, like I said in the Discord, back to you. Come to Michigan.
He tweeted at me because there was some craft beer that he was drinking in like Italy, but it was from, I think it was a Founders or something.
Probably.
Like that. Yeah. So I was like, yeah, you need to come here and we'll drink all kinds of craft beer.
The amount of craft beer in Michigan, if you don't know, is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like it's getting noteworthy for how much craft beer there is here.
People who move away from Michigan miss the craft beer.
Yes.
So
it's like you can look up a map of like breweries in Michigan, and it's staggering.
Yeah.
There's hundreds of them.
All right. And then Bruce wrote in. He said, hey, just wanted to check in. I'm enjoying season 3 so far. It's moving pretty fast, so much so it makes The Walking Dead look bad. It doesn't take much to make The Walking Dead look bad, in my opinion. But shots fired
sick
there.
Burn.
I'm intrigued by the voodoo stuff with Angelville. It's different from the comics, but in a good way, in that I want to see where it's going. The actors are all well cast, and I'm liking the more subtle, I suppose, direction they're going with these characters, and that they aren't as outwardly vile and awful at first glance, but still shady. As far as the casting goes, I only know Betty Buckley as the nice teacher from Carrie and the crazy old lady from The Happening who Marky Mark hides out with near the end. The Grail stuff in episode 2 was a lot of fun, and I'm inordinately happy about Star's head injury. I won't give too much away, but it was great in the comics. Then he said, my purgatory items. A Blu-ray of Samurai Cop or Big Trouble in Little China. Very good. The Wall by Pink Floyd playing.
Oh, man. Yep.
Any of the books I haven't finished yet. It's a good answer. Got to get back and
that's a hilarious
finish
answer.
something.
That sounds like they might make you just go ahead and descend into the afterlife or ascend into the afterlife.
A nice hot pizza. And then the full collection of Preacher Trades with a winky face. Anyway, I'm still enjoying the podcast, so keep up the good work. Thank you, Bruce, for writing in.
Thank you, Bruce.
Good to hear from you.
Bruce, I'm glad. I guess you made your point clear when you said The Wall. I was going to ask for your opinion on like the more Roger dominant tracks on the album, because I've heard other band members, especially David Gilmour, be like, yeah, there's a lot of fluff in there that I don't care for, whereas I think every track is necessary and awesome. And I'm assuming you do as well, because you listed the album. So
yeah, I'm
one of those Vera fans hanging in there. So.
There you go.
Great point, too. The Walking Dead does stink.
Yeah, we don't need to get into that here. But
there will not be a Midwest Walking Dead podcast
there will never.
either.
Although Willie was once on the Walking Dead podcast, and that was his podcasting start.
We can do one episode about the pilot, because the pilot is very good.
We talked some trash about it on the Film Nerds. So,
did we? Okay.
Yeah.
Years ago.
It was the Negan stuff, the cliffhanger with
Oh,
Negan.
that's right. Yeah.
Eeny, meeny, miny, mo.
Yeah, for 10 minutes.
Yes. All right.
Thanks for all the feedback.
Yes, thank you everybody for writing in.
Lovely,
Fantastic
lovely
to discuss with people what their purgatory items were.
It's
a great question. I never would have thought to ask that question. As I said in the Discord, I was like, it didn't even occur to me to think about that. So I'm glad that you brought it up, because it was a great discussion point.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Everyone needs to get in on the Discord. It's a blast.
Yes, please. Only $5 and up on the Patreon.
$5.
We do.
Then you won't. Never mind. Do it. Join the Discord. I was gonna make an argument for why you didn't have to, but it is fun.
You should, because it's great to have instant communication, not only with us but the other people that listen to our show.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, let's get on with our recap. In the teaser, back when Jesse was a teen in high school, a science teacher on the vice principal track came to him to help wipe the mind of a junior who had fallen in love with him. Jesse cautions the man that payments to Madame Langelle cannot be missed, and the man almost withdraws his request, but Jesse convinces him that the worst that could happen would be pretty bad. The following week, we see Grandma's handiwork was a success, but the man shorts Jesse some money and ultimately doesn't show up the following week. After Jesse, TC, and Jody collect the teacher for punishment, Jesse learns that that fingernail removal isn't the punishment of choice, but soul removal is. It turns out that Madame Langelle uses these souls to stay young, according to Jody. The young Jesse, I don't know, I can't remember what we said about him in the past, because this particular actor we have seen as young Jesse in the past.
Okay.
He's so good.
Yeah.
He's just got that charm. He's almost better than Dominic Cooper, in my opinion, which is, that's probably unfair, but I just think I guess we haven't got to see Dominic Cooper in that position of luring people into Angelville.
Yeah, exactly.
And he may be very good at it.
I think he will be.
This kid is very good too.
Yep.
And so I just wanted to comment about that there. But what did you think about this?
Just the Angelville High made me laugh, because I'm fairly certain in the book that Angelville is just the name of like the compound.
The plantation.
Yeah. The plantation, not the surrounding area. So that left me a little puzzled. Apparently, I guess it must just be the region or the city or something like that. But other than that, it did make me laugh, just because the idea that it was just Angelville High, just generic. That Jesse, growing up there, you'd think he was probably just homeschooled to try to further his brainwashing instead of going to school. But obviously, it's a good hunting ground sort of for him. And I just thought the guy who played the science teacher was aptly creepy and funny.
This show's real good at finding those people.
Yeah, with his misplaced confidence and terrible jokes and willingness to just deal with all the fallout of it. He's kind of all right. Wouldn't be the worst.
wouldn't want to lose my fingernails.
Yeah, I like my fingernails.
Yeah.
And his vice president or vice principal track. Yeah. Women are into that kind of power.
I'm on the vice principal track. It's going pretty well.
It's so funny because I wouldn't want to begrudge anyone who that's their goal. Like in real life,
No.
if I like knew someone who was like, I'm on the vice principal track at school, I'd be like, oh wow. But when you watch it in this context, you're like, what a nerd. Like,
Yeah.
Wow.
It's the fact that he's like abusing a junior.
Yeah, that it's also it's the perfect joke because it's vice principal, not principal.
Yeah.
Like it's just because if you remember,
He's got ambitions, but they're not too high.
right. And I remember my assistant principals from my public school years, and they were all like a certain type of personality that I think this guy embodies really well. So it's kind of funny.
The entire HBO show Vice Principals is very good.
I've seen, so my friend made me watch like one sequence from that, and he's like, I'm just gonna ruin it for you. You gotta watch it. It was very good, but I really love that like brain trust of Jody Hill and Dana McBride, and I forgot the third guy who's always involved.
Yeah,
like David Gordon Green, I think, is always in there.
Yeah. No, that
Walton
show.
Goggins and Dana McBride are both.
This dude would fit in on that show.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Those
he's a little more
two
extreme,
actors would fit in on this show.
Yes.
I think
Walton
Goggins was one of the names we bandied around for TC. Yeah, exactly.
Oh God, that's so good.
I love Walton Goggins so much, but I feel bad because he'll never be like a leading man, like AAA movie star, but he should. He has all the talent in the universe. That guy's amazing. He is so compelling. He can play such a scumbag in Hateful Eight, and yet is so good. You just want to watch him.
He's good at being a total shitheel.
Yes.
Like that is just,
but in the best way.
Yes.
Yeah. I want to see him and Ben Mendelsohn in a movie together just to try to out shitheel each other.
Yeah, and the fact that Jesse's just on the table smoking as this faculty member walks up and says nothing to him about it.
Yeah, that was one of the most impressive parts of the performance was just the posture.
Yeah.
Like, just very Dominic Cooper.
Yep.
That was great.
Absolutely.
So the stakes are pretty high there. She's yanking people's souls out.
Yeah, so is there really no analog in the book of like she's using souls to stay young?
No.
That's interesting.
Not that I can recall, but
with how prevalent it is here.
I just started rereading this arc, and I only read the first issue, and it's only 5 issues long.
Yeah.
So I'm fairly certain. No, they do have the aid of another force in the book.
Okay.
But it's not. She's not. There's no like elixir or anything. Like as far as I can recall, Jody's mysterious ability to stay roughly the same age is never explained either. Like he just is this larger than life character.
Yeah. Interesting. All right. Anything
else? They even look the same in the show, though. They're like a little bit grayer, but
yeah, no, and that's they don't do a whole lot to kind of like differentiate because they just put that like a color. The coloring is different for past.
Yeah.
So it's not like you need to like.
I think TC
Betty Buckley looks younger.
Yes.
But other than that.
Yeah, and I'm going to attribute that to like them falling on hard times. Like she doesn't have as many souls to stay as young.
Yep.
Anyway, we'll talk more about that.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on this teaser?
No. It's good.
All right. Well, I will say it was interesting to me that we were seeing the first time Jesse was learning about the soul extraction stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah. Okay, Act 1. As Hairstar travels to the Krishna headquarters in India, Cassidy and Jesse check up on Tulip. She can't remember anything about what happened other than that she was with her family, and towards the end there was something different. Cassidy reveals that Jesse's quote-unquote friends, the Grail, were the ones who killed Tulip, but while Cassidy is ready to take them on, Jesse knows he has to deal with Grandma first. After confirming the word will no longer work for him, he calls up Hairstar, who takes word of Jesse's request as he's executing the top of the Krishna organization, since they will not accept Humperdew as their one true leader. Dave Allen as the head of the
Rosso.
Krishna.
Yeah. As soon as he spoke, I was like, is that Mr. Rosso? I had to look it up.
He's
He's
fantastic
amazing.
actor.
I always, for like a nanosecond, think he's Chris Elliott every time I see him in something.
That's interesting because I always think he's. I don't actually know the other dude's name, so I'll have to look it up. but I always think he's Philo from UHF. Have you ever seen UHF?
No.
Yeah, it's
it's a Weird Al movie.
It's
right?
a Weird Al movie, so of course I've seen it 1,000 times.
Yes,
but the Anthony Geary is his name.
Yeah, I don't think I know who he is.
And I always think of him. I always think that Dave Allen is the character Philo, because Philo's a very he's like a mad scientist in that movie.
Okay,
and so for some reason,
fits.
Dave Allen would play that well as well. But anyway, it was great to see him here. Nice to see Hair Star again.
Oh, as soon as they showed his jaw and just that.
Yes, the scowl.
Yeah, exactly. And then the glimpse of his eye, I was like, Star! Just so excited. Here he comes.
So I guess from here, we're learning that the Grail is executing sects of religions that do not take Humperdoo as their one true leader.
Yeah, I think what they're probably doing is executing leaders and replacing them. I feel like they're kind of putting a figurehead in that they can just command, essentially.
That makes sense.
I think this is a part of an end game. Like if the Allfather is getting ready to reveal Humperdoo, then they're getting all the
ducks in a row.
Exactly, getting all the religions in line.
Yeah, that makes sense. I liked all the color in that sequence.
Yeah, it's another good action sequence. I like this trend of at least one each episode. I'm liking the trend more of 2 each episode, which so far we're holding on to, which is pretty cool.
Star executing one of his own men to kill.
Not surprising.
Not surprising, but good to see it illustrated here.
That was the only beat of the fight scene that felt a little bit weird. It felt a little off. They could have tightened up that choreography a little bit, but the rest of it was so good that I didn't care. I love his just effortless, nonchalant style of just moving through all the chaos.
Yeah.
It really made me want to rewatch his origin episode from season 2 that details him running through all the tests and stuff. Because oh my god, that was so funny. That was one of the highlights of the series for me so far.
Absolutely. Yeah. It was perfect.
Cassidy is annoying as hell so far.
So it's interesting. Putting Cassidy and Jesse against each other is really proving to not be, I guess I was not that they were against each other last season, because they were everybody was kind of we were in the waters of testiness, I guess.
Yeah, everyone was on edge.
But now that they've drawn the line at Tulip and are fully the framing here, you see Tulip in between both of them.
Yep.
Obviously symbolism of some kind, but the just kind of the outward animosity towards each other is not as entertaining as I know they can be when everybody gets along,
Yeah, I shouldn't say that I'm not surprised by it. They do get at odds with each other in the book over Tulip, but it's just there's an imbalance in terms of, like I said last week, on how Tulip is acting. She does not really care for Cassidy in that capacity in the book, so it feels a little weird. Yeah, it's a little bit different, but it's interesting because I don't want to say Jesse's being the adult in the situation, but he kind of is a little bit more, where he's kind of all right, chill out. And he is the one who tries to apologize later.
Yeah. Well, and then he also tries to send him off in the same sentence, essentially.
It's true. Yeah, exactly. That's why I don't want to give him too much credit.
Yeah. No, the way that how do I want to phrase this? It seems to me as though I feel like Cassidy can see Tulip as leading him on, but I think Tulip assumes Cassidy knows that she is with Jesse.
It's interesting that you say that, because it's not clear to me that she is until they say until the end of the world, but then they're not together at all.
After I guess the only thing that kind of threw me off there was when Jody's like, are you Jesse's lady friend, lady friend? And she's like, I'm nobody's lady friend. But that to me just smelled of I'm not a lady friend, I'm a partner, or something like that.
I would agree with that.
I see what you're saying because it's not like they're acting like it much, but I think that like their relationship has been so dysfunctional from the get-go that
I think we might be gearing up towards like a big bombastic Jesse and Tulip makeup towards the end of the season. If it follows the book at all, there'll be like a real like Gone with the Wind kind of moment of romance. So
yeah.
It's just
because the last time we've seen something like that is when she like locked herself in the bathroom and Jesse beat the door down at the hotel. At
like
the beginning of season 2, yeah.
Yep.
I was like, was that the beginning of season 2 or the end of season 1? So that, but yeah, so it's been a while. It's been
I mean, for the first stretch of the books, they're definitely rocky because she hasn't forgiven him for like leaving her essentially, which she does. He does leave her high and dry at one point in the books, like in the past. So everything's kind of in the right place. It's just weird because we've seen the three of them all be so buddy.
Yeah.
But it feels like
back from that a little
most
bit.
of the friction is Cass's fault because he may love Tulip, but he needs to recognize that she will never love him.
Yeah.
Like she may not be with Jesse anymore, and I'm not saying that she isn't, but she could love Jesse again and probably still does. She's incapable of loving Cassidy though, and he just will never realize that, and he should. They may have like a connection, but it's never going to manifest itself in that way.
Yeah. Interesting. Also interesting to me that in this episode, at least, and a little later on, that Jesse still didn't know who Featherstone was.
Yeah.
Because he didn't see her throughout season 2 except as the jazz singer.
Yeah.
And Jenny stayed away while he was home, essentially. So the fact that he's still kind of like, who's Jenny?
Yeah. The neighbor. Oh,
yeah. And then a few other things. The chicken at the road when he tries to use the word. They always have a chicken running across the Angelville stretch.
That's
there.
right, yeah.
And I'm like, I guess that's probably the chicken that Jesse had revived at the beginning of the finale.
Just hauling around.
Yeah. So that was funny. And I liked Tulip's line of, well, thanks, dads, as they were arguing.
That was funny.
Very good.
She's so great.
She's very good.
All three of them are just so good.
Yeah.
I like to think they're all just good pals in real
life. I
they
assume
seem like
so.
They get along really well. Yeah. Did you hear a dog bark noise out of Jesse's mouth when he tries to use the word?
Huh.
I like at the same time I heard it, and I'm fairly certain on the closed captions it said dog bark or dog barking or something. Like at the same time he tries to say stop the car.
Interesting. I did not, but that's interesting.
Okay.
As like a god dog man dog suit.
Sort of. Yeah.
No, I didn't. I didn't hear that and think of that. And then when I think my mind shut off a little bit in that scene because I was like, oh, I know what's happening here. I can type my notes up without watching it.
Sure.
So I didn't see what the closed caption said. But
I'm fairly certain.
That's interesting.
I try to always watch this in Westworld with the captions because sometimes they have like you can
contextual clues.
And I can absorb it a little bit more sometimes, like what's going on, which is kind of a hindrance because I like to watch it too. Yep. Especially with the two shows that are so well shot and put together. But anyway. I was pretty sure there was some of his interference was a dog bark.
That's interesting. Yeah, we can talk about it more later, but I feel like the and I guess it might be by design, but I think the sound impact of the word is not as good as it once was. But we'll come back to that. Act 2, Jesse tries to send Cassidy off, but he won't leave without Tulip. TC tries to connect with Cass, but he only gets through after offering him drugs. And Grandma wants Jesse to get the plantation back to prosperity, but he's hesitant. Tulip keeps thinking about her interaction with God, but still hasn't shared it with anyone. She sets up a shooting range outside, but Jody interrupts with a grenade launcher before offering her a high-powered gun. As Tulip looks down the scope, she spots someone with a ghillie suit who runs into the brush to avoid detection, but Tulip finds out that it's Featherstone, and she easily bests her in a fistfight.
So Jesse already called Hairstar. That's right. He did it before the Krishna scene.
Yes.
He left in the message. Okay.
Yes.
I wanted to mention how funny their business card is to me.
It's a very elegant business card.
And it says the Grail, top secret organization. And it's so awesome.
I didn't even think of that. I was
really?
just like, oh, that's the Grail business card.
Oh my God, it's so funny.
That
it's
is very
the Grail,
funny.
top secret organization. Helmut, whatever his
Carl
Helmut Starr,
yeah.
or whatever his full name is. Klaus.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
and then like his phone number and stuff like that. It's so awesome.
That is very good. This act starts off with Cassidy looking at some pictures on the wall at the plantation,
Mm-hmm.
particularly one of someone like hanging upside down from a tree limb and like in flames as the sunlight is behind them, which is interesting. And I don't know how anybody would miss some of the commercials that we've seen, but it seems like he might be in a similar situation.
It's in the titles.
It is in the titles, isn't it?
Yep.
So it's like, okay, that's weird.
Yeah, I think Jody figures out immediately what he is in the shootout, the lead up to the shootout scene.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, because he asked about the hat. That's true.
And he has a line like, well, he says something like, "I don't think you'll need this after all," or something like that, because I think he realizes like he's a vampire, he's indestructible, essentially.
Okay.
Something along those lines.
Yeah.
Anyway.
TC and Cassidy. It's just so good.
Oh, the actual scene of them talking? Yeah.
Well, this isn't where they talk as of yet. This is just where...
Oh, yeah.
Like, Cass walks in to have
Shut up.
swamp consomme, and he's like, "Shut up, will you?" or whatever he says to him. And then... the side eye that Cassidy shoots him when he's like, "I only eat the red ones. The green ones are good, too."
And then he goes, "Do you like drugs?"
Bing. It's
just the slowest turnaround with no dialogue needed.
I was telling you earlier that TC, for some reason, I'm almost feeling guilty that I enjoy him so much because I know how disgusting he is.
It's a great portrayal. It's definitely just a really fun performance, and like I think it was Bruce pointed out, they're not so outwardly loathsome.
Not yet.
Any of the three of them. Yeah, you can tell they're all...
It feels like they are trying to lure them all in.
Yes.
Like, it's certainly Jody's conversations with Tulip and TC with Cassidy, it feels like they're very much bringing them in close and kind of like trying to form relationships with them and just, so, and that leaves them an opportunity to show more of their real selves.
And to disarm them a little bit. Yeah.
Yes.
That's a great point. I didn't even think about that because Jesse is often dealing with grandma.
Jesse obviously treats them as he knows them because that's who they are. He punches TC in the face with the shot. Like it's all on the page for him, but for Cassidy, even Cassidy tries to do that and then drugs. So it's all good now probably. Yeah. But yeah, Featherstone in the ghillie suit.
So goofy.
It was really goofy, and I thought it was like a very strange.
It happened very quickly.
Yeah, it was a little choppy.
That's one of those moments I'll say feels a little fast.
Yeah,
it was choppy. I was confused at first. I was like, "What did she see?" I thought at first she saw God like standing there, and she was chasing him in the dog suit. I couldn't tell. And then Hoover's out there somewhere, and Jody just emerges with Hoover.
Yep.
Hoover.
Which, I mean, it's not like we needed to see where Hoover was at, but
no, you figure where there's one, the other's nearby. It all happens very quickly, and that's even something Jesse says later in the episode, so it must be by design. But, I mean, we're moving along. Yeah. Yeah, Jody and Tulip, I think, are fun together. Yeah, it's an interesting pair. Him just walking up with a grenade launcher to blow up the beer cans. Pretty good. And then having like a sniper rifle. like a 50 cal. Yes, they're certainly armed to the teeth. Act 3. As TC regales Cass with his dream about Lucy Liu, Jesse comes in to locate Tulip. They head outside to find that she's got Featherstone in a headlock and Hoover is with Jody. Jesse learns that the, quote, jazz singer was Jenny, and he wants to know if Star is aware that Tulip is alive, and Hoover confirms that Star is aware.
They take Hoover and Featherstone to the swamps, but Tulip gets too heated and wants to kill Featherstone immediately. Jesse delays her, and they go to Jody's organ grinder for something more excruciating. Hoover escapes, and Jesse sends the rest of the group after him so he can send Featherstone off to get Star to come to the plantation. Unfortunately, Tulip saw him do it and wants some answers. TC's Lucy Liu conversation.
Yeah.
I knew exactly where it was going, but to hear Cassidy start reacting to it as it's happening as well, it's just like...
Yeah. This is where you get to see a little bit of the way TC is in the books.
True TC.
He's definitely obsessed with having sex with everything in the comic. Like everything. Anything. And it's pretty nasty. And this part was funny because the story starts off kind of sweet, and then it just quickly.
He knows a lot about Lucy Liu. I don't know if any of that's true or not, or what, but like he knows a lot about Lucy Liu in the context of his dream.
Yes,
like he's paying attention to the tribulations in her life.
Yeah, but and he's going to the supermarket and buying like celebrity gossip mags that feature Lucy Liu. And I like that it's a celebrity that like they both, even Cass like, oh, I like her.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, oh yeah, me too. I also like that he's so nasty and like his self-worth and everything are so low that like in his dream, she's like gives him a look that says, I don't necessarily hate you. Yeah, exactly. I mean, on the one hand, I'm like, shame on you guys for making me like laugh during someone talking about a rape dream. Yeah. But on the other hand, the joke is just so funny because the actor sells it so well with that far away look in his eyes. He's saying, he's like, you don't necessarily hate me.
He's like, I would love to have that someday. Yeah.
It's so twisted and so foul, but it's funny. And then watching Cassidy be like, please tell me you're the worst person here. And he's like, no. No, he's not.
Well, and the thing that I noted as well is like Cassidy taking a hit of whatever they're doing, and then he starts trying to continue his story, and TC's nowhere near that. Yeah. He's not paying attention to that at all. Far away. Yeah. He's thinking about his Lucy Liu dream.
It's funny watching Cass bond with the other like outcasts of the world, but when he was hanging out with Fior, it was much, much sweeter.
Yes. Yeah, that's for sure. That's funny. I think that was like episode 2 or 3 last season as well.
2, yeah, so that was very early. Yep.
Cassidy's starting some drugs pretty early on in both seasons.
That part was funny when he asked, rewinding a little bit, Tulip about the deer, the city run entirely by talking deer. Yeah. She's like, are you smoking crack? I wish. I'm out.
Yeah, I forgot to mention that. Yeah, it's of course the first time he gets offered anything, and it's probably some like swamp gas.
Oh yeah,
it's the same type of potion crap that he would make like in season 1,
just out of like whatever's laying around.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
For sure. The kind of thing that won't
probably
kill him.
Even worse.
Yeah, the kind of thing that won't kill him, but it will kill others.
Yeah.
Mortals.
That has made TC what he is today.
Yeah. It was a good scene.
This is also the Coen brothers rear their heads again in Cassidy's.
When they're marching through the swamp. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. The moment when Jesse is standing there with Tulip and Jody, and then Grandma, Cassidy, and TC just show up. It's something about that Cassidy in that moment, the way his posture, the umbrella, him like peering over the sunglasses. It was pitch perfect from the comic. Like it looked exactly like Cass from the comics, and I was like, "Whoa, that was cool." And then like he still does throw, but something about that, the way he was standing there with them, was very like it was like a cover.
Yeah, well, yeah, the tableau of it all, just like I guess even like being unaware that like it feels like there's something supernatural about Grandma, of course, and just like presenting them in that way, almost as like her 2 guards or something like that.
It was very
like
Tim Burton-y.
Yeah.
Reminded me of something he would do. But Cass, just the imagery of him right away, I was like, oh yeah, that's perfect. But yeah, the Coen brothers conversation was so funny. I love that he's describing it before he actually names the title, Miller's Crossing. He just started talking about it. I just started laughing. I was like, here we go. And then
as if Jody and TC are up on any movies at
They
all.
might be. TC at least might be.
That's true. That's true. He knows what Lucy Liu is, so that's
he knows
a start,
all
I
about
guess.
Lucy Liu.
And yeah, as I said in the Discord earlier, Cassidy saying film. It's just perfect. It's too good.
Yeah, I love the continued hatred of the Big Lebowski.
I still wonder who hates it, if Rogan or Goldberg do hate the Big Lebowski, because I feel like they'd be the kind of people that would like the Big Lebowski, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Not that it matters too much, but I wonder if anybody out there has asked them about it.
Or they might like really love it, and they once heard some guy talking about him. She hated it, and they thought, man, that guy sounds like an idiot.
That guy sucks.
Yeah, that guy sounds like the biggest dumbass ever.
That's very true. I
have a note in here that just says Jody's eyebrow raise, and I don't remember when it was, but oh man,
that might be when Jesse asks him about the organ grinder.
Maybe somebody said something about. I think it was before. In my notes, it's just ahead of talking about Cassidy with the umbrella and stuff standing there. So it might have been just prior. It might have been. I think it was when Jesse asks Hoover something. Anyway, somewhere in that scene, it might have been the organ grinder. I don't know. At any rate, the way he just raises an eyebrow in response to something was very funny, and I don't remember what it is, but it was pretty funny. Just those little expressions in this show continue to just kill me.
Yeah.
Little things that I'm always really interested in watching the things actors are doing when other actors are speaking, like watching how they're reacting.
The people who aren't in the conversation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Watching what they're doing is always really fun because really great actors will still seize the opportunity to like make something out of it.
Yeah.
It's great.
For sure. Yeah, I don't know if there's a whole lot. Do you have anything else for this particular act?
I loved the line, the Coen brothers, just like you wouldn't think they're the same people unless they were struck by lightning or something in between. Like, it's the best way to describe that. You can't chalk it up to anything more than just an act of God, like striking them and turning them into something else.
Yeah.
I loved Cassidy's line about hot dogs when Tulip is like so grossed out, and he's like always going on about how you love hot dogs, and, like equating the product of the organ grinder to hot
the
dogs.
swamp consomme is just basically hot dogs.
Yes. I also love Jody just taking the mason jar of it and just taking a big old pull off of it. I know when he said organ grinder, I was like, what? Does he have a little monkey? And he's going to... And it's literally an organ grinder.
Yeah.
That whole conversation was really funny, Jody describing it and talking about the raccoon.
Raccoon that jumped out.
Jumped out, half ground. That's a scream you don't forget. Man, what are these people that they're drinking this shit? Like, he's literally just grinding up animals that have been laying there for probably a day.
Yeah.
And just drinking it. His digestive tract is probably just another smaller organ grinder. Just like with a small Jody inside operating it.
Beautiful. Yes. Absolutely. All right. And then, Featherstone getting away. I don't know. That all was pretty standard. So Act 4, Jesse informs Tulip that he needs his soul back from Star to be able to deal with his family before they can take on the Grail. They hatch a plan to provoke the Boyds to keep TC and Jody busy while Jesse talks with Star. We learn the Boyds want Jesse dead due to murder and sex, although they only send a voodoo... We learn the Boyds want Jesse dead due to murder and sex, and although they only send a voodoo telegram at first, Cassidy lures them back with a grenade launcher shot. Jesse takes a seat in the kitchen, and Hair Star follows closely behind to talk with him. Once again, I feel like something weird's going on with the Boyds, because you know that bomb blast happened, and then those dudes were just right back. They were ready to go. I don't know if that's just the...
I think they're...
cartoony, like the caricature-ish kind of like... sense of disbelief that that's like a comic book thing of like, you know.
I think it could be that. They're also clearly a tinge supernatural themselves too.
Yeah.
I'm intrigued by Jody saying murder and TC saying sex at the same time, and then them looking at each other. It made me think that like maybe Jesse didn't necessarily do anything and that they did it and blamed it on Jesse. Because Jody definitely leans towards murdering people, and TC leans towards wanting to have sex with things. So I wondered if there was... Because it was the way they looked at each other, kind of like, huh? Oh, maybe we were supposed to have our story in sync. It was just kind of weird.
Yeah, that's interesting.
But at the same time, Jesse doesn't refute the idea that he should avoid the Boyds, and he knows that a message from him will set them off.
He did something, yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. There was something funny about that I feel like maybe they either exacerbated the situation a little further, or I don't know. There was something about that kind of made me kind of raise my eyebrow like Jody did. Like,
yeah. Huh. You were more in tune with Jody's eyebrow raises than I was.
They're pretty good.
This is also the conversation about Cassidy's hat.
Oh my God, the hat! I should have laughed my ass off. Is that the first time he's had that, or have I just not?
I think that's the first time he's had an umbrella hat.
That kind of hat, yeah. Oh, it's so perfect.
It's really good.
I feel like Joe Gilgan can wander into the show wearing anything, and I'll accept it. Like, it's fine. And that.
Well, he's wearing that. He's wearing that hat, and he's also got this like olive drab, like army camouflage, like zip up jacket type thing that he could.
You can tell he just finds things laying around and just tries them on, and it's like, it works. That's fine.
He just goes shopping through everyone else's wardrobe.
Yeah, he just takes things.
That's pretty good. This is also the act where TC picks up Grandma's colostomy bag and smells it, and he can tell that her serotonin is up, but her protein is low.
She needs protein.
Yeah. That's just
he's a regular wonder hound.
He's got a very strange set of skills.
Yeah, his are definitely more out there than Jody's. Jody's make more sense. You look at him and go, "Yep."
Yeah, he's a bruiser.
I have a note in here that says Grandma will deteriorate, and I must have written that down at some point when they're talking about her needing the souls to stay young. It probably was when she was talking to Jesse, saying, "You owe me a lot of souls."
Yeah,
because I posited in episode 1 that perhaps we will later in the season see her looking more like she does in the comics.
Yeah,
and I think at some point this potentially explains how we will get there. That if she kind of reaches near closer to a near-death phase or something, we might see her more for what she actually would look like.
Yeah,
that could be
that makes
cool.
sense.
Like I said, there was something that kind of tipped me off to the fact that Jody thinks Cass is a vampire in that exchange, and I don't remember exactly what it was, but there was something that because he goes to give him the grenade launcher, and then he takes it back, and he's like, "I don't think you need this after all." And it might have been because he's like, "You're going to be an idiot with it," but also something about the way he said it made me think that like he was kind of like. Because he's definitely asks like, "What's the hat?" And he doesn't seem into the excuse.
Yeah,
and Jody is definitely the smarter of the two. Like he's like scary, insightful, and intelligent in the book. Like he's just kind of a force to be reckoned with across all aspects. But he's definitely like.
So he at least
he's
has
got a bullshit detector
that's know.
Very high. Yeah, and he even says it later that he thinks Jesse's up to something, and although you don't have to be a Rhodes Scholar to figure that one out.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I get that. I didn't. I was not clued into his skepticism in this episode, apparently, but that does certainly seem like it's there. Once again, TC's like level of detail on the goat.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Like, that's a pygmy male. It's about 6 years old. Is nearly deceased.
Yeah, it's a goat. Yeah, he's a little encyclopedia.
Yeah, that's for sure. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it. The way that Jesse just walks into the kitchen and sits down, and Star approaches from.
Yeah, there was like a musical cue, like it was supposed to be shocking, and I was like, we know he's coming.
Yeah.
About that.
Yeah. I don't know. Once again, I felt like things were a little bit messy here. The way that it was.
We just, I think, don't know the geography yet of Angelville.
Yeah.
Because you're thinking, okay, how did Star get there? And I was thinking, all right, well, he's clearly proven himself to be like ridiculously good at what he does, so he could infiltrate it and sneak in, no problem.
Being able to show up, yeah, whatever.
But then there were like 3 SUVs parked with a full complement of Grail agents, and I was like, oh, so wait, where are they? Like that.
Yeah.
That was a little unclear.
We haven't seen we've seen establishing shots of the building at least, but not like the surrounding areas, obviously. So
yeah.
All right, and then Act 5, the Boyds and the Langels shoot at each other until Cass gets hit. The Boyds flee, and TC and Jody pursue them all the way back to their Roach motel. Jesse talks with Star and initially gets a soul back, but because it was a placebo, he can't actually control Star with it. Star tries to negotiate with him and figure out what has changed and why he doesn't want to be the Messiah anymore, and Jesse goes along with him to recover his soul, which is in the car with the Grail. Tulip notices the empty soul vial and thinks that Jesse has achieved what he wants, so as Jesse is about to retrieve his actual soul, she grazes Hairstar's head and kills several Grail members. They take Jesse's soul away before he can get it, and Hairstar intends to let Jesse marinate in his personal hell. We can stop there and talk a little bit before getting to the final.
Okay.
Or I can just read it.
No, let's do it.
Okay.
Let's pause. That's a lot.
Yeah. So
the conversation between them was good, and it's weird that I find myself empathizing a tiny bit with Hairstar, where I'm like, yeah, man, just go along with it for now. Like, what's your beef? And then I'm like, wait, because Hairstar's clearly like, yeah, my idiot subordinates did that. I didn't want that to happen. Like, how can I make it right, kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's just an interesting relationship between them. It's different than in the books, but I like it. I think it's good.
Yeah, like they're still not like full on enemies.
Yes.
As of yet.
Nemesis.
At least, yeah. Well, by the end of this episode, maybe.
Nemesises. What's the plural on that? What movie is that from?
That's from Mystery Men.
I was going to say write in and tell us what movie that's from.
I apologize.
No, it's from Mystery Men.
I want to watch it so bad. I haven't seen it in years.
It is so good. That movie
holds
up.
Wonderful film.
It is a wonderful film. A terrific film. A highly influential film to myself. Yes. My brother and I reference that all the time still. Yeah, it's just so good. Early-ish Ben Stiller, like before he like exploded, but he was already big. Yeah. Anyway, go see Mystery Men if you haven't.
For sure.
It's fantastic.
It was another comic, wasn't it?
I think it was like a very, very offbeat.
It's definitely an adaptation novel. For sure, but it was
stacked cast.
For sure.
Unbelievably good cast.
Yes, absolutely.
So he consumes the placebo.
Yeah, and I can't tell if I think that's part of my issue is that sounded like the way the word normally sounds.
It did a little bit.
And we did have cause to think that maybe Hairstar was like acting about it earlier. Mm-hmm. Because I think we had wondered if maybe he had his soul removed or something, so it didn't work on him, much like it didn't work on the Saint.
Yes.
So to kind of see him playing along with it here, I thought was interesting, but I still don't. I guess I don't quite understand. Like now we know Jesse thinks the word isn't working because he doesn't have his soul, which I don't know that was like painfully obvious to us previously. I went to go back and take a look at it because he tries to use it in the school at the beginning of the finale, the season 2 finale, and it doesn't work. And I guess we are supposed to take it as the word doesn't work because they have already extracted his soul. Maybe. I don't think I tracked back to where they took it from him.
It was a little unclear to me as well.
Yeah, it seems some of the mechanics there feel a little up in the air still, but maybe I just needed a rewatch of season 2. Star calling Jesse's family mud speckled troglodytes was
all of the Star dialogue is always the best stuff.
Yeah, it's good to have him back.
I am learning to appreciate the soul stuff more now that I understand why it's relevant. I remember thinking in season 2 when they got into it, I was like, this is unnecessary. What are we doing? And
it seemed like right now, it's all making sense and kind of filling in well.
Yeah.
And so when it came in last season,
it was very abrupt.
Yeah, it was abrupt, but I think it's kind of impressive that they've managed to like weave it in as successfully with the source material as it seems they have.
Yeah, it's working for me much better now. So. I loved the eat your dick. If only.
Yeah, perfect, that was good.
Perfect Hairstar reply.
Yeah, and then just Tulip going after and shooting. So I guess that's what we can talk about. Is we do? I think I left it out here. Tulip remembers, or at least we get to finally see what she remembered of God telling her to get those sons of bitches. Yeah. So I'm wondering if, what did you say last week? The mission that she's given by God
in the book.
In the book.
Tell Jesse to stop.
Tell Jesse to stop.
Make Jesse stop, essentially. Like,
so
he doesn't want to be found.
The way that, so she remembers that as she sees Jesse and Star walking along the path. I was wondering if God wants her to destroy the Grail.
It seems that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm taking from it as well.
Okay. So that, I guess it may not necessarily exclude Jesse at this point anyway, but
that's a good point.
From the editing, it seems as though God wants the Grail to stop doing what they're doing.
I love during the repeated shots of the man dog.
Yeah.
I love like the focus on its paw. Like for some reason, like there's one shot where it's like zoomed in on the paw, with, like the crazy colors radiating off of it, and it's like the worst looking thing. It just, oh my God, it just really, really cracked me up. I was like,
yeah, it looks like something off of a CRT TV.
Yes. Yeah. Or something out of like Too Many Cooks.
Yes. Absolutely.
Dog suit with all this light coming off of it and then zoom in on the paw. Yeah. It was really good.
All right, and then the final little section here. Jesse tries to pursue the Grail, but Grandma uses voodoo on his blood-stained napkin to choke him. She orders him to get back to work, and as Tulip and Cassidy discuss Jesse and his darkness and Tulip's need to fix her mistake of opening fire on the Grail, Jesse heads out to the tombs and starts mopping. The high school teacher we saw in the teaser asks for help, but Jesse says he can't help.
I just want to mention the moment when Tulip realizes she screwed everything up, and it cuts to her dad at the same time. Yes. She says, "Why can't I just do one right thing?" That was surprisingly powerful.
Absolutely.
I did not expect that. I actually had pretty much acknowledged all the purgatory stuff. I thought, that's cool, and then had wiped it from my slate. And as soon as it came back in, I was like, oh, wow. Like that was a really, really good moment.
Yeah, I guess the fact that came, because we know she stated that she didn't remember exactly what happened there, like what happened in purgatory. She seemed, when she told Cassidy, she's like, there's something else that happened towards the end, and then Jesse comes in and like interrupts the situation. Mm-hmm. I feel like she knew what God said to her, and we were just getting glimpses of it ourselves as she was like reminded of it. Mm-hmm. But her getting that clear vision of what her dad said in purgatory, I think, was quite powerful. Like, and it, like, the fact that Jesse doesn't like blame it on her being an O'Hare or anything like that, I think is good too. Because we've heard him call her that out of like anger and frustration, and like yeah. So I think Jesse brings up the fact that she's an O'Hare when she goes back to work for Danny and like continues to do crime instead of like staying home to try and have a child with him in season 2.
Yeah.
Or when we saw. So the fact that he doesn't like, I don't know, she has that connection to her dad in that moment, but doesn't like, it's not like Jesse knows that's what is going through her head at the moment, but it's not, he doesn't, Jesse seems to have been like, well, we messed it up. We'll come back to it.
Yeah, he's not even angry at her.
Yeah. So
it's refreshing to have a more clear-headed Jesse.
Yeah.
He at least knows right now what his mission is, like to get the hell out of Angelville.
In short term, he can't worry about God right now because he's got to, or being the Messiah, because he's got to get out of Angelville. Yeah, it was good to see what Grandma can do with the blood-stained napkin, at least.
Creepy.
Yeah, quite creepy. And then the tombs. Are the tombs a thing in the comic?
Not in Angelville.
Okay.
It might. I have yet. I mean, I don't think we really know exactly what's going on. So I'm
yeah,
sure
that's true. So
in the
yeah.
next episode we'll know.
It seemed to me like there are people without their souls living down there.
That's presumably the old guy who got out from the flashback from his mom, where she makes TC chain him back up.
She somehow got out, or he somehow got out of the tombs.
Yeah.
Um,
His mom said, "Open the tombs again." I wonder if. I wonder if she doesn't take their entire soul at once, but if it's essentially like a farm down there, and they keep people chained up and keep them alive to continue taking their soul. He didn't look much older though, so I wonder if they enter a weird state of like agelessness eventually.
Well, if we think about it, Jesse's probably in his teens.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
And so like maybe 15, 20 years later.
Yeah.
Like the dude has a lot more hair. He's got like a beard. It's kind of hard to tell because he's kind of beaten up too.
Yeah,
like he doesn't have his his eyes like sewn shut essentially, or something like it's closed.
Yeah, I think they might be down there, kind of like a soul farm essentially.
Yeah, but the thing that's weird to me is like I
wonder if he's one of the last ones, if he is the last one that Jesse helps them.
Yeah, that could be
acquire because of his age. It would kind of make sense if he ran away around that time.
TC and Jody are literally terrible at like bringing customers in because they're too
TC and Jody
disgusting.
Yeah.
I guess the thing that's weird to me is the cop that tries to get into Angelville is like, I want to see the tombs of like the fact that like, is there any type of outward facing part of the tombs to like the
public?
Not necessarily the public, but I guess the people who know of the illicit dealings.
Yeah, there might be the rumor that people that have disappeared in the town are down there.
Yeah.
But they can't get a warrant because the people in power just tell them no.
Yeah, the councilman.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Hairstar's injury.
Yeah.
Did Bruce bring it up?
Bruce did bring it up. I feel as though I don't know if like you and Lance either talked to me about it or if one of you brought it up last season, but I felt like I was aware of it when Bruce brought it up.
Well, if it is the same thing from the comics, you know what it is? What exactly is the result of his injury? Like what happens to him?
Is this like No, I don't know that I do.
Okay.
I can't necessarily remember.
This may not be the same thing. I initially when he first gets hit, I was like, oh shit! I thought he actually got like shot in the head.
Yeah.
And then when he's mopping it up, and you see that he obviously didn't get shot through the skull. He's not dead. I for a second thought, is this it? And then I thought, no, but it might be. He gets it. He gets wounded. That similarly in the book, except Jesse does it to him, and he does it with intention of knowing what he's doing. And the result is great. Like what exactly happens to Star. And if it is the same, so I think episode 3, we might be spending more time with the Saint of Killers and Arseface. I feel like we might detour.
Yeah. Yeah, we
Either
haven't
way,
seen them yet.
We probably shouldn't see any more Star until they're ready to open the episode with him post-injury. Because it has to open an episode or close an episode, because that's how it rolls out in the books, and it's gold.
Huh.
So.
All right.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I'll just leave it at that. Good eye, Bruce.
Yeah.
As far as the tomb, him mopping, I don't know what the hell he's mopping either. Like I really don't know what to expect about this, other than like. Man, I really don't.
She's talking about getting the tombs like operational again. It almost seems as though there's like more to. Are they like replicating souls or like? I don't know. I wonder, like, if it is some type of soul farm, as you said, like, do they have some type of way to restore the souls to these people without like? Are they using people as vessels to literally farm souls as you would like blood?
Yeah, maybe they're like, maybe it's set up like an auction type situation where they have these people chained up, and like you can have some of this person's soul in like people, like maybe he's cleaning like this, like the the assembly area.
Yeah,
like
that's
where people will
interesting.
stand around and like make offers for like someone's soul.
Because I've forgotten, I forgot a little bit about how the soul stuff came into play, at least with the Sokosha, and that it's like the Japanese have come in and ruined the industry with their technology.
Maybe it's like akin
They can
to
take
like,
fractions of souls instead of.
maybe it's akin to like buying a slave essentially. Like because if you own their soul or a part of their soul, you own them effectively, and they'll do whatever they can to get it back.
Interesting. Yeah, that may be it.
Well, we'll find out real soon.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
we will need to find out pretty quickly here. So
I'm really enjoying the season so far.
Me too, and more so than I thought I would, which I'm happy with. Not as I said, not that I was like totally down on season 2, but I just feel like by the end of it, I had kind of lost the bead on what Preacher was.
Yes, yeah, it was definitely kind of a murky season. This one feels more, I don't know,
concise.
Yeah, and it's got more drive. Like we kind of know what's going on. We know who our enemies are. We know the stakes, and we just got to see how it plays out.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. Like Jesse laying it out here, being like, "We need to get away from Grandma, and this is what I got to do to get. Like this is what I need to do in order to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Like I got to get my soul in order to get away." I hesitant. Like I don't know if I want to say this necessarily, but it doesn't feel like. You talked about the pacing of it last week, of like you could see this being like 6 or 7 episodes before he gets away from Angelville. And I feel like that's kind of where it was at, except for the fact that I don't know how he could possibly get his soul back from the Grail as of yet.
I would agree.
So
I think I know what's going to happen, but I really don't. So it's exciting. I have theories based on book knowledge, but I can't say for certain, like, oh, I know what's going to happen.
Interesting.
I like that. I like that the show has always been like one step just off to the side of the path.
That's cool. I'm glad that it's making it enjoyable and suspenseful for you, even though you have read the book. That's good.
It is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I think we will try to get Lance on sometime soon.
Yes. Now that we're not... now that we have a little bit of a schedule in mind on how we want to do things, we can figure it out. So,
yeah.
All right. Once again, you can find more episodes of our podcast on g2tpodcast.com. That's the letter G, number 2, letter T, podcast.com. We're also on TV Time, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher Radio, and Google Play Music. We're also G2T Podcast on Twitter, and you can email us at g2tpodcast@gmail.com to tell us what you think of our podcast and share your thoughts on AMC's Preacher so we can read them on our show. Send us corrections, observations, or anything regarding Preacher or our podcast. There was one last piece of feedback I forgot to read. We did get a tweet from our friend Anthony, I believe, who was happy that we were going to try to get the episodes out a little earlier. Mm-hmm. So my apologies on us getting it out kind of late last week. Just Westworld being there kind of stuck a bit of a fork in things. But now that Westworld is finished, we can kind of devote most, if not all, of our podcasting energy on Preacher, and it's good. I'm happy with that. The Midwest Podcast Network has other shows about video games, horror movies, FX's The Alienist, and HBO's Westworld. Find out more about these shows as well as how to support the network at MidwestPodcastNetwork.com. Our theme music is the song All In by The Red Thread, and it is being used under a non-commercial Creative Commons license. That's all for this episode of Gone to Texas. We can't wait to see what next week's episode of Preacher brings, but until then, go forth and speak the good word.